let me give you a hypothesis. Let's say that human beings are already being cloned, lock, stock, and barrel, that their entire personality is being downloaded into, the brain that has been generated and pre-programmed to accept, your personality. How would you then deal with people that are, if you will, subservient to you? Especially you had the power, you had pretty much all knowledge that's known in the universe at your fingertips. You had the ability, because of all the different technology, to, in essence, read the thought streams of human beings, because that's what NSA is doing right now, or even to program it. And then you were told, Tom, or Doug, or Joe, that you had to have your actual being killed in order to superimpose the new, if you will, the cloned being. Tom, you want to answer that first?
Well, my answer is going to be probably longer than Doug or Joe if they want to go first.
No, actually, I want to hear what you've got to say, because...
Well, I mean, we're talking about diminished sympathy. You said a moment ago this really all comes down to love, mercy, compassion. These are distinctly human elements. Now, an animal can also have affection. A dog can love you and have affection, and to an extent feel empathy and things like that. But to rule over, this is something that is distinctly human, as we were created in the image of God and to be His imagers. And both, of course, Old and New Testament, the life of Christ, illustrates that the love of God, right? God so loved the world that He gave, and Jesus so loved the world that He followed. And He said, "And by this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, because you love one another." That's got to be at the forefront. Now, Steve, you were interviewed a few days ago, and I don't remember the title that was put up online, but it was on AI integration, how it'll be used to identify, vilify, basically,
nullify and destroy.
Yeah, and destroy patriots. And of course, for those that are paying attention, Alex Jones is the best example of this right now on how artificial intelligence systems, digital systems, are being used to vilify those that don't walk the party line, that don't obey the grand masters. You said a robot, would the robot kill its clone offspring? Well, we're already seeing what artificial intelligence systems and the grand masters will do. And this is key. In fact, we should talk about this a bit tonight, because there's a frightening trend right now that is supported by a growing body of literature that is connecting digital dependence to personality fragmentation, where you have cyber relationships over personal ones that our parents would have had a generation ago. And it's raising a kind of psychosocial what would the term be, a divide that researchers see blossoming in antisocial trends, and you're seeing it all over the place. Today people saying Donald Trump has divided the nation. Donald Trump didn't divide the nation. There have been a lot of powers at work for a while, but partly why people have been so dumbed down to just go out onto the streets and conduct, violence one against another is because we have diminished our ability to act with civility, to converse, to have differences of opinion, to be able to argue our points. I remember when I was a kid going to school, we would have debate classes. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but you had to learn how to make your most persuasive argument, but do it in a civil way. Look at what's happening to our nation today. We are literally coming apart. Part of this is political. Part of it is. Part of it are political figures that are inciting social division. That is definitely part of it. But a large part that nobody is talking about right now is how, with the dawn of the Internet and the digital explosion, we have people paying more and more attention to iPads and cell phones and computer screens and all the rest of it than there are to each other, even when they're all sitting in the same room. I can't tell you, maybe I'm just an old fart, right, but how much it bugs me when I go to the airport or I go into a mall or anywhere else, and instead of seeing parents with their children conversing with each other, they're all sitting in a long line, and every one of them looking at a screen. And they don't realize that research shows that that situation is becoming an electronic pandemic by people escalating their detachment from traditional relationships while consuming 3 times as much digital information today as they did only 10 years ago, checking emails, texting, I think the most current statistics, texting 37 times an hour, spending 12 hours a day on average taking in e-media. And then you add to that phenomenon where we're going with this next step, partly why people need to be at the conference in Branson, because the next step is brain-machine interfacing. Some of that will be discussed and illustrated during the conference. This is literally one of the hottest emerging trends in the marketplace right now. Christmas toys coming out where kids, can play games by wearing caps on their head that's extracranially reading the impulses of their brain waves and translating that into being able to control systems. Now, all of that is multiplying a divide between human-to-human relationships. That was going to be my point. Versus human-machine integration. And substantial concern, I think, right now should be raised around, one, how brain-machine interfacing is naturally going to exasperate the decline of the family unit and interpersonal relationships upon which society has historically depended. It is the foundation of a civil society. Secondly, the increase, and Steve, this is where it gets back to some of the other aspects of robots, the euphoric cybernetic addiction that's going to multiply as different cerebral stimulation of the brain's pleasure centers are added to existing neural senses. Right now we think of our neural senses, sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, but scientists are saying that the virtual reality systems of tomorrow, including sex robots and all that, and virtual porn and all of that, is going to create a literal epidemic of people that are opening their mind. You and I understand this. They are opening their mind. They're opening their brain, a gateway not just to digital and erotic stimulation, but to supernaturalism. This is what our good friend Chuck Missler talked so much about in the last few years of his life. The danger that when you hook your brain up to machine systems, it isn't just a one-way, teleportation device where you're sending your thoughts through into a cloud and giving command to computer systems, but you've opened a doorway that is a two-way lane, and other things, entities, influences, whatever, could jack into your brain, therefore into your soul, into your spirit, and affect you as well. So, to me, we can keep talking about this if you want, but I think this is one of the most dangerous things. And frankly, the frightening part about this is it appears that it's entirely unavoidable for the most of society right now. The loss of individuality to a digital age, to a digital system. We're losing our anonymity, our privacy. We're giving up our free will as a result of cybernetic integration. And so I think we're facing significant ethical and social dangers right now. Industry, government interests, they're racing forward into the technological dream of post-humanism, not just transhumanism, but post-humanism. And there is a migration toward the fulfillment of biologically and cybernetically modified humans that are going to be combined with corporate and national investments. What did the great thinker that wrote about the end of mankind, what did he call it? The creators, or whatever he called them. These are the people that are, as they are with Alex Jones right now, determining who will or won't, right, get to be in the public forum. They are the digital Gestapos of today. And by the way, the reach of this is far more than just who's going to get to be on Twitter. People, everybody's wearing these exercising digital armbands right now. What do they call those? Where it keeps your heart rate and your things like Fitbit. Well, imagine though tomorrow when you're wearing your Fitbit and that data that is monitoring how you're taking care of your health is used to determine whether or not you're going to get to have health coverage. Because if you won't take care of yourself, why should you be a burden on society? So we are giving up all of the great liberties that were codified in the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution based on inalienable rights that were given to us by God, and we are losing all of that. And by the way, he might have been crazy, but Ted Kaczynski knew what he was talking about when he wrote his thesis, the Unabomber. When he wrote his thesis, and he said, little by little, we are giving ourselves over to a digital slavery. And that was the whole point that he wanted to make. Now, he's a nut. He's insane. But much of what he wrote about in his thesis was absolutely true. It is the road we're going down, and he foresaw it.
Yeah, and if I can jump in real quick, how many people remember John Roberts' confirmation hearing, I believe it was in 2009, where Joe Biden asked Roberts that he was going to make legal rulings where the integration of humans and microchip implants would be something that he would be ruling on, and that would be that would happen in his lifetime. And Tom, you mentioned the brain-machine interface. One of the things that's always fascinated me about this is how the constant demonstrations show that the whatever it is that connects between the circuit boards and the brain tissue, that they merge and work together without any outside operating forces, which is very telling as far as where our society is heading. And they already have the plans rolled out or in law for these medical purposes, doing just that.
Absolutely. Well, look, I mean, think of it. Your brain is just electrical activity. The synaptic firings in the brain are something that can absolutely be, well, the reason why we're making prosthetics right now, or a soldier who loses an arm, and by the way, Steve Quayle, me, the Hagmans, for anybody that's listening, we are not against therapeutic technology. That is not part of our anti-transhuman agenda, where devices can be made that could motorize wheelchairs or give people the ability to speak. I mean, we are for this kind of technology. But the only reason why DARPA right now has been able to roll out both exoskeletons but also artificial limbs, hands, robotic hands, that kind of thing, where people can control that wearing a rubber cap on the top of their head, is because we have written the algorithms that know how now to translate the neuron pulses of the brain and to translate that into strings of zeros and ones, digital code, where it's then transmitted digitally into a receiver, and it is there then put back into comprehensive language that can tell the fingers, I'm moving my fingers, or I'm moving my hand, or I'm raising my arm. So we're already well beyond the ability of being able to brain-machine interface. We already know how to do that. And you're absolutely right. I forgot about that. And I forget exactly what the senator's name was, but he said, you mark my words, in my lifetime, we will rule on whether or not microchipping of humans will become mandatory. And now, fast forward to our present day and look at the strong cultural forces that are compelling all individuals to get plugged in to the grid, right? To be plugged in to the cloud, into the system. And soon, in the near future, we know that whoever resists is going to be left behind as inferior Luddites, which I've been accused of being, somebody that opposes technology, or worse, considered enemies of the collective's progress, i.e. Alex Jones, and like the former counterterrorism czar Richard Clarke in his book Breakpoint some years ago, depicted that those who refuse technological enhancements will be defined as terrorists. So they won't only be closed out of the public forum, as we're seeing an effort right now. They will be jailed or put to death. And, of course, this totally smacks of the coming of Antichrist and the kind of persecution that the church is going to face. That is why I believe with all of my heart that the church should be at the forefront now of this conversation. They should be engaged. If the church doesn't get involved, that old saying, if righteous men do nothing, right?
Right. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.
Right.
That's kind of it.